Well, here we are. This is school number 30 that was bombed just 2 days ago. Here we see the rubble. You can see how Donetsk doesn't bomb anyone. All the glass is broken. You can clearly see that it's actually shattered. There they are. All the glass is broken right there. The glass falls here. These are, as you can see, shattered. Here I am looking at the roof. Totally destroyed, thankfully. Everything is destroyed.
Look at yesterday's. I arrived at school, my grandfather.
To my grandfather's. It's clear which aspects were targeted.
For us, it's clear, of course, and which ones, and which are the aspects.
Of the bombing?
Right now, at this moment, these days, I went out for the first time in probably a week with my child, and even then just to the store to quickly buy things, because it's very scary to go out with a child. In 2014, 2015, when it all began, my family and I sat in basements and slept dressed in hallways on suitcases because we were very scared. People have been stressed for all 8 years.
This is a woman who was just walking down the street. I stopped her, and she was happy to answer all kinds of questions. Here, people honestly speak very eagerly, and they do it because they have nothing to hide. I'm really sorry if this isn't coming across as professional reporter work, but maybe I'm a sentimental reporter. Here, people are afraid. They've lived in basements, and in many places here, there are bombings. We're still hearing bombings, and they haven't stopped. In 8 years, they haven't stopped. And everyone says the same thing. They know where the bombs are coming from. This is the reality in Donbass, particularly Donetsk region. This neighborhood, as of today, is one of the most affected because about 4 days ago, a missile hit a 9-story building. Fatal victims include a 1.5-year-old girl who is currently in a coma, fighting for her life. We're also going to go to that building and see what we find there. Here we are. Glass outside, glass outside, tree outside. Right here. One, the school. It's that building. Now let's go see another one behind the kindergarten. And let's see if we ask someone else about it. Let's see what they tell us. But well, the thing is, well, you can see how they are. Well, we're still walking through this neighborhood. Here's the kindergarten, where supposedly another missile had landed. Do you see these things? And this is what happens with things from missiles and bombings. These things seem silly to us, right? They've already cleaned it up. There's just a rather small hole left, but this will go there. The damage it causes is much greater. If there were children, I can't even tell you, so as many people write to me and tell me, no. But there are still buildings standing, and this doesn't seem to be completely destroyed. There's something that happens in all kinds of conflicts that I think we should really reconsider, and that's that we're relativizing people's fear and pain. This is the fear and pain. Behind me, there's a kindergarten. There are children there. This didn't hit the kindergarten simply because they were lucky. But you tell me, what kind of military target has been found again and again in this apparently residential neighborhood? By the way, a very curious fact is that in all the reports, it's mostly women, elderly people, especially elderly women, and children who appear. There are no men. And of course, that's because nowadays almost all the men are at the front. And what about those who aren't? Because there are some who, let's say, try to dodge military service a little bit. Nowadays, mandatory until 60, from 18 to 65 years old. Before it was until 60, but they've raised the age to 65. It's mandatory nowadays. And, well, those who aren't following it, obviously look at you a little cautiously, and in fact, they try to keep their distance, just in case you ask them anything, because obviously, they don't want to appear in any kind of interview. At a time like this, here we are. This is a recently bombed building, 9 floors, the top 3 completely destroyed. Let's see what happened here. Let's try to talk to someone, see what people can tell us. Can you hear the bombings in the distance right now? I still hope nothing else reaches here, and well, let's see what they tell us. First of all, you can see the atmosphere, and I think it's very important to point this out because here they are distributing water. And this is the building itself. There is absolutely no target. No military one. It's an area. It's residential. Well, here we are. This is the building that was recently, just about 3 or 4 days ago, bombed. Here in the city of Donetsk, we see the MTS working, which would be something like the firefighters in Spain. Here's a family looking for something. Let me tell you that in this building, well, one of the victims is a little girl, and this is what you find right in front of the building. And of course, what people here are telling us is that we see those 3 floors destroyed. But what has really happened in this building is that all the floors have completely collapsed downward. So right now they are working and searching, looking for remains, looking for victims. I have spoken with the MTS workers, and they tell me that they can't talk or give us exact numbers, but about 4 victims. A girl of 1.5 years old, as far as I understand, is still in a coma and has a very serious head injury. And yesterday was when they took out the last victim on the 4th floor, a woman. And well, that's what they told me.
For example, the one who was beaten 2 days ago, there was one, and about lives. My child is 9 months old now, which is scary. Honestly, I'm scared. I want to go for a walk, but I can't go out with my child because I'm afraid for his life. And what can you say? For 8 years, no one has heard us, no one sees us, no one sees or hears us even now, at this moment, and that's everything that's happening. I have a friend here with a 9-month-old baby. We're always scared. Yesterday when it hit, I was shaking all over, and when the house was hit 2 days ago, I just cried all day because, again, there were children there, and the scariest thing is for our lives.
Let's go to the country. There are more bombed places than you can imagine. This is one of the newest. They aren't giving any official information at the moment, but just so you know. 4 victims, a 1.5-year-old girl, her head split open, currently in a coma, fighting for her life. And do you see it for yourselves? You? Right in front of the building. Here's the building, right in front. A school number 92, I repeat. Here's the building. Here. The school. Well, right now, because of the wind, you probably can't hear anything, but you can really feel some heavy bombings here on site. I couldn't say from which town they're coming, but they're there. Well, behind me, the MCH's people are still working. I've moved a little away from here. We can see these types of glass remains of the building. Destroyed. The residents are asking themselves why, what kind of military target was here, and how is it possible that these images end up appearing in some media outlets? Like a bombing in Kiev carried out by Russia? I'm going back to the same place. Can you hear it nearby? Well, I hope you can hear it nearby because honestly, if they don't bomb, well, we're here right now. Paseo de Los Angeles, right? Exactly. And it's dedicated to the children who have died in this city as a result of the bombings carried out by Ukraine since 2014. Avenue of the Angels in memory, the children who died here, their names are Gigabaya, Bulaiba, Bulaev. These two are siblings because we also know that they are siblings. Not just because they share a last name and are different genders, but also because the O in his patronymic matches. The father is 1. The children are ages 4, 18, 1, 8, 16, 17, 2, 7, 13, and 2. Here are the toys. It's very common to make monuments with toys instead of flowers when it comes to child victims. Here we see the monument itself. Toys of all kinds and sizes. It's very common to use toys when it comes to children. Alea de Ángeles. In memory of the fallen children, Lomas. And here we are at the Donbass Arena. Here is another monument to the children who have fallen in Donbass since 2014. Well, this is another monument here at Donbass Arena. There are quite a few. In this case, it is in memory of the deceased, in general to the fallen soldiers of the Donetsk People's Republic. Clearly, building these things in just a month isn't easy, is it? If the war began on February 24th, thank you. Tell me, where would the monuments to the fallen soldiers come from? And in which battle am I standing in front of a monument? The children, one of the 3 in the city, to the children who fell here in Donetsk under shelling carried out by Ukraine. The story of this one in particular is sad. This is a boy who protected his sister from shrapnel during a shelling and died instantly, but she managed to survive. And the million-dollar question, how many children have to fall here in Donetsk and in Donbass, throughout all of Donbass as well, victims of the Ukrainian shelling, so that in Spain, we recognize that this war didn't start yesterday. But these stories really affect you and make you angry. Is that what you mentioned in another video? It's frustrating when you read comments like, why are you always talking about Donbass? Of course, they talk about Russia, about Ukraine, but they mention separatists, terrorists, and independent supporters. But tell me, what would you do being ordinary citizens, being civilians? What would you do if your children became victims of a bombing from a country that still wants to consider you its territory? Tell me, would you go out and fight or would you stay still? And that is the only reality, the only explanation for the so-called separatism that is being sold from Europe. There are mothers and grandmothers here. That's what's left. And so that's what was left because everyone there went to defend their homeland. 2014, I'm telling you no. Now, people who could no longer speak Russian, tell me if this is normal. Tell me if what they've been living through here for the past 8 years seems right or justifiable to you, just because the Ukrainian side considered them separatists. These are people born, living, and working here. Minors have taken up arms to defend their homeland. Wouldn't you do the same for your children?
This museum is about World War II, but it's divided into 2 parts. One part covers World War II, as I mentioned, and the other is about our war.
The one from 2014. No, yes.
Yes, there's also a museum down here. It's an art museum right there.
That's how it is now. It would be a store, from what I understand. Back there, there's a bus stop and another store across the street, which is still open for now. The anti-fascists from Kharkov, Artyom Zhudov and Alexei Sharov, were killed by Ukrainian neo-Nazis in March 2014. Here we arrive at another place, another monument to the children who fell in the war in Donbass. Eternal memory to the civilians from the Kulbashevsky district and the village of Visoli, who died as a result of the aggression by the Kiev junta. All of these are children. They're all children's last names, the toys. 2014 to 2016.
We have to say that all these children are just from one neighborhood.
I mean, they're just from here.
Kulbishevsky rayon, yes.
So all these children died alone from this neighborhood?
There's a neighborhood in a small village a little further up, just a little further up, I mean only in this area.
Damn.
This one, this plaque is probably newer because it's different in style from the previous ones. Because probably, well, at that time, not all the children were registered, not all the deaths were recorded. And this is probably the continuation of what I understand.
There they are, but they don't come here for that, you know? Because this is hard to sell as a victory for Zelensky. All of this that you see is shrapnel. Oh my God, my goodness. But what fell there?
And a little further ahead, it was one of my comrades.
He was wounded, yes.
Our reputation was stolen.
Yes.